The Madras High Court today stayed the release of a movie that took 500 crore rupees to make, starred Tamil superstar Vijay, and was also widely publicized as his last film before he enters politics. Taking into account the fact that the censor board was not given any time to respond, which caused a violation of natural justice principles in the process, a bench of Chief Justice Manindra Mohan Srivastav and Justice G. Arul Murugan sent the case back to the single judge's bench for a fresh decision. A single judge bench will now decide the matter anew after considering the censor board's response. Due to the release of the film getting postponed on account of the Central Board Film Certification withholding its clearance certificate, the filmmakers were forced to approach the Madras High Court, which initially granted it the clearance it needed on January 9th, only to revoke it later, causing the production house to approach the Supreme Court. Even after making their way to the Supreme Court and finding it hesitant about interfering in their case, the filmmakers were directed to move the Madras High Court all over again. So, what was the entire controversy about? How did it unfold before the Madras High Court, and what does this all mean for the status of the film's release? Let's find out by tracing the issue all the way back to its inception. The case dates back to 22nd December last year when the chairman of the censor board had exercised his statutory powers and granted permission for the release of the movie by issuing a UA or a 16 plus certificate to the movie, subject to certain cuts. Although the chairman's order had specifically said that if the producers have any grievance, they can file a revision, the producers had gone ahead and fully complied with the cuts imposed by the board, the production house's lawyer told ThePrint. After submitting the censored version of the film to the board, while the producers were still awaiting the release of the movie, which was expected on 9th January this year during the Pongal festival, they received an unexpected shock. On January 5 this year, the CBFC changed its mind and said that due to certain complaints that it had received about the movie's portrayal of the defense forces in a negative light and the alleged hurting of religious sentiments of people, the film was being referred back to the CBFC's revising committee. Finally, the matter reached the Madras High Court at the behest of the film's producers, which, after hearing the case, reserved its judgment. The January 9th ruling. 4 days later, on 9th January, a single judge bench of Justice Asha directed the CBFC to set aside the chairperson's decision sending the movie for review. In doing so, she granted the UA or the 16 plus certificate to the film while noting that the CBFC chairperson had sent the movie even after it had already been certified by the board. The single judge said this action lacked jurisdiction and frowned upon the CBFC entertaining complaints from the examining committee members despite them already having given their clearance in December last year. In the 9 January ruling, Justice Asha also set aside a 5th January communication by the CBFC informing the film's producer that based on a complaint, the censor board's chairperson had referred the matter to the revising committee. The same day that Justice Asha passed this favorable order for the filmmakers, the CBFC went ahead and challenged it before a two-judge bench this time and managed to halt the operation of the order through a court-imposed stay. Once again, the producers of the film went back to the court, this time approaching the Supreme Court, which made it very clear that it will not interfere with the plea on January 12th. The case then travelled back to the Madras High Court, which reserved its ruling on 20th January, but only 7 days after this came today's order, where the Madras High Court set aside Justice Asha's order, which had earlier allowed the release of the movie. Simply put, this means that the movie will have to overcome more hurdles and a web of legal obstacles before it finally sees the light of the day. In the meantime, the court on 27 January, which is today, also allowed the film's producers to challenge the CBFC chairperson's order to send the movie for review. All eyes are now on the Madras High Court as actor Vijay's fate hangs in a limbo. And that brings us to an end of today. For more legal updates, stay tuned to The Print.